Click, 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 click. Hello, everyone, and welcome to BHD Studios. This is my first live YouTube video in a very long time. I experimented with live probably 3 years ago, and they didn't go so well for me because I didn't plan them very well. And for this one too, this is not planned, but I did kind of want to test it to see. I didn't even announce any of this. I should have maybe even used Instagram and Twitter to even say that I'm going live like this. And I probably won't save this unless there is a good reason to save this. But thank you for whoever's joined. A lot of you that follow me on Instagram knows that I do a lot of Instagram live. And for the past few years, I did so because it was more immediate, and I don't know, I just found it a lot easier to do versus YouTube. I wanted YouTube to be a place where I would kind of keep my main videos, and then Instagram was kind of more playful and fun because before Instagram Live, you couldn't even keep it. It would be gone after 24 hours, so I didn't really care. And now you can push it over to Instagram IGTV. And so I did stop doing Instagram Live for about a month or so on a regular basis because I was preparing to either do Twitch or do YouTube. So you guys let me know if you want me to do live videos or not, if this is something that you want, because I thought other than the more polished videos, well, as polished in terms of for my quality of polish, I thought maybe it would be better to do kind of a quick update with like the gear that I have, the different, stuff that I'm reviewing. Here I see questions coming in here. Thanks for joining. Makina 6.7. You guys want me to review that? I have a few buddies that have the Makina 6.7. I think that it's a cool looking camera like the X Pro 3, but in terms of functionality, I think the Mamiya 6.7 is probably a better camera for most people because it's interchangeable lens. Yes, it folds down nice and compact, but once you open it up, it's as big and as heavy as the Mamiya 7, depending on what lens you have on there. So I think the Makina 6.7 and also the ergonomics are a little bit weird. It has a nice neat core lens on there, but the Mamiya glass is really awesome as well. And you don't see too many working pros with two Makina 6.7s, right? A lot of them will have Mamiya 7s or Mamiya 6s for, you're banging the camera around, you're out in the field, you're working hard. Mamiya 7, I would say that I would rather play with than the Makina 6.7. But I think it's a cool camera. It's a nice collectible kind of a thing, but I do kind of want a workhorse camera, and that's why I do have the Fujifilm GA645ZI for myself when it comes to work, because the format size and some of the features it has, which is exposure, stamping in between the frames, and the date stamp, time stamp, all that stuff is really awesome. I love to see a review of the Makina. Yeah, okay, so we'll see. I actually have an upcoming collaboration with a regular sponsor where we will be reviewing used gear. I've already given it away, but I'm gonna have access to more used gear. So if enough of you guys say you want me to review the Makina 6.7, but I will compare it to the Mamiya 6.7. I think that would be a good one, not just sort of reviewing the camera on its own by itself, but reviewing it against something so you have some kind of a context to why I like it or why I don't like it. Some features that I love and some features that I don't love. Let me see here. What are your thoughts on Sigma FP for photography? Well, if you're doing stills only where there isn't a lot of movement or motion, because remember the Sigma FP does not have a real shutter. There's no physical mechanical shutter. So you're gonna get rolling shutter, right? And for those of you that don't know what rolling shutter is, it's more obvious when you're shooting something that's moving very quickly in a still, or when you're shooting video and you're moving back and forth very quickly, is that each pixel is read one at a time and per row at a time, right? So if you take a photo and it basically goes through each pixel line by line, and so from the exposure of the first pixel to the last pixel, there actually is a slight time difference. So if you have a bicycle moving across a frame and you take a picture using electronic shutter, which is what's in the Sigma FP, the wheels look warpy and it actually looks like it's falling backwards. And when you're using a video and you go back and forth very quickly, you get that jello effect. And so that's what you're going to get with the Sigma FP. Now you can definitely get away with it because all smartphones are also electronic shutter. There is no physical mechanical shutter in smartphones, but the smartphone has a very tiny sensor. And so it's much faster for the first pixel and the last pixel to be read. And what we're all waiting for is a true global shutter, which is something that Fujifilm and Panasonic had been working on since 2013. And a lot of manufacturers are working on a full frame global shutter, which will get rid of the issues that you have when you are using an electronic shutter, but it's still quite a few years away. And remember, the Sigma FP doesn't have an EVF, right? You can attach different attachments to it and stuff. So you can definitely get away with it, but I wouldn't get it just because it's full frame. So, but thank you for that question. And thank you for those of you that are joining. There's 31 of you so far. You're probably wondering, oh, wow, bigheadtaco is starting to do live videos. And if this does well, I will definitely keep on doing this. Maybe it's a Friday, right? So maybe I would make it like a live Friday event, Friday morning, if that seems to be a good time for most of you. Let me see here. What did you say the name of that Fuji you like as your workhorse? Yeah, it's the Fujifilm GA645. It is their autofocus. It's a point and shoot medium format, and that's why I like it. It does have manual controls. It is a rangefinder style, but when you manually focus, it is focused by scale. But there's a GA645, GA645W, which has a wide angle lens, and then the GA645ZI, or Americans, you guys will say ZI, and that actually has the zoom lens in there. So you can go from wide to standard focal range. And I like that for my medium format work. I usually will have my Leica M7 or a Minolta CLE with me. So I already know what the exposure should be, or a digital camera. And then once I shoot with that, I typically need a tripod because that lens is, I think, f4.5 to 6.7. So that's one of the issues with medium format. The lenses are slower. You're still getting decent shallow depth of field because, of course, because the format is much larger. Even with an f4 on a medium format, you're still going to get shallow depth of field equivalent to maybe, depending on the format, but at least an f2.8 in 35 mil or full frame, or even f2. So an f4 on a 6.7 is probably like an f2 on a 35 mil. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't have the calculator with me or to work it out, but it's great. But at night, f4 or f6.7 is not so great. And so using a tripod or a magic arm when you're shooting late at night, because I love night photography. That's what I've been using medium format for, is in Hong Kong, shooting at night. It's very cinematic. And because it's low light, I do want to get as much resolution so that if I blow it up, it still looks fantastic, but I got to watch the exposure. Let me see here. Catching up here. So thanks for your question. Review the Boxster 311. Yeah, I actually do have a couple of people that I've talked to do some car collaboration videos with, and I would definitely love, I loved cars before I loved cameras. And so my love for cars are deep. Even though I'm driving an SUV now, I still wish I was in a 2-seater convertible and just driving around and just driving. I love driving. I enjoy it quite a bit. But I would love to include that. But I can barely keep up with the videos I have right now. I see, can I demand a Zoom interview with Mr. Chan? Love your vids. You know what? Mr. Chan probably would, but someone would have to show up there and set up for him. And he'll make time for people. He loves talking. I mean, you could tell he doesn't really like to sell his, as he calls, his masterpieces. He doesn't like selling them. But if you want to talk about cameras, he'll talk your ear off. So if someone in Hong Kong will go there And because I'm in Vancouver, I'm not in Hong Kong. For those of you who think that I'm in Hong Kong, if someone was set up, you book a time with him, he'll show up and he'll do a Zoom interview for sure. I'm sure he would love to do it. Do you know any speed boosters that allow you to use Leica M glass on X mount cameras? No, I don't. I don't use speed boosters I just use a standard converter for going from M to X mount. But if those of you comment down below, I don't use them. And if someone can comment down below and hook me up, or I can reach out to the different brands, if they can send it to me, I'd love to test it just to see what happens. Best pancake lens for Fujifilm body. I'm not a fan of Fujifilm technically only has one pancake, right? And even that, whenever I called it a pancake, Billy and the other local reps, they actually tell me like, well, we don't like to use the term pancake. But the 27 2.8 pancake, it's not that sharp, wide open, but you can always sharpen it in Lightroom and Photoshop. So if you have the lens, don't sell it because I tell you or someone else tells you it's not that sharp. Even the 18 f2 is not that sharp of a lens. You can definitely sharpen it up in post, or if you stop it down, it's sharp enough, right? But wide open, the 27 f2.8 and the 18 f2, not that sharp, but sharpen it in post or just stop it down. Between those two, my affinity is towards the 28 mil equivalent in full frame field of view. So I would say the 18 f2, but it comes down to your photography because the 27 works out to be about a 40 mil, and I also love the 40 mil. But I do wish that Fujifilm makes a 27 f2 because I have a 28 Summicron in Leica, so that's an f2, and I love that lens. And I also have the Minolta 45. Actually, I think I even have it. Let me just move my desk here. I have all my Minolta glass here. So this is, oh no, these are all my converters. Just give me a second here, guys. Let me see if I can find the lens. No, I think it's in my, just give me a sec. It should be somewhere in my studio. The 45 f2, I think that's a fantastic lens. And I would love to use that lens for, in my Fujifilm, but at that field of view, right? I want to see that at a 45. So that ends up being like a 70, right? So 27 f2 doesn't have to be a pancake. I think that would be a great lens. Let me just try to catch up here. You drive an SUV, shame on you. Dennis, to me, an SUV is just one notch above a minivan. Although I say that the minivans in Japan or in Asia, aren't they awesome? But Camera Girl did promise me she would let me buy my dream kit car. I don't want to call it, not kit car, but a car that I can fiddle with, meaning like not crazy modify, like dropping like those monster Miatas, like dropping a Mustang 5-liter into a Miata, like nothing crazy like that, but I can fiddle with it and play with it and not worry about its value. Is really an MX-5, a Miata. That's been my dream. Maybe like a Gen 2 or Gen 1 is fine, but I think I want a little bit bigger than a 1.6 liter engine. So Gen 2 to Gen 3, I would love to have like even one of the Mazda speeds. I think they're great cars. They're not that expensive to buy. They're rear drive, really well balanced. The stick shift is really, really nice. It has a really nice feel. I have friends with S2000s and some higher end cars. I like the Miata, the MX-5's shifter feel over all those other cars, definitely. But SUV is very convenient when you go grocery shopping to Costco, because those are the things that you kind of have to do, even though they're not fun. Wow, so thank you for all the comments, guys. And I didn't realize how well, like on Instagram, I might get maybe 20 people, and now I'm up to 50. So thank you so much for joining. I appreciate that. Let me just, I might need a love from Regina. Hello, Caleb, how's it going? From the prairies. You guys watch, stay safe, eh? Your numbers have been low. Your COVID numbers have been low for a long time, but it's been spiking in the prairies. So you guys take care over there. By the way, that new converter from Pentax K to Sony E looks promising. Yeah, I would love to, a lot of you guys might not know this, but back in the film days, in the manual focus days, Pentax, SMC, the super multi-coat lenses, they made beautiful glass, like right up to 600 f4s, 500 4.5s, 300 f2.8s. There's 70 to 200 f2.8s, 85 1.4s. Pentax made beautiful glass, came out glass, but even their medium format stuff for their 6.45 and their 6.7, they had some monster lenses, like I think 800 f6.7s and stuff like that, 1200 millimeter f8s for their medium format system. Pentax has beautiful glass. They just kind of didn't make great bodies. Like the Pentax LX, which is kind of the equivalent to Canon's F1 and Nikon's F3s. They're fully mechanical, manual focus camera. That was the most pro body they had made all through the film era. They had the PZ1 or something like that, which was still more of a prosumer, until the digital K1. That was like a 30-year gap between pro bodies. And so Pentax kind of really dropped the bomb on their SLR bodies, but their glass has always been world class. And after Minolta glass, I would pick Pentax glass as my next favorite out of all the Japanese manufacturer. I say Japanese because if I had a choice, I would pick Contax or Leica for their SLR lenses, the stuff that Contax made with Kyocera during the 80s and 90s. I think even late 70s, 80s, and 90s. That their SLR glass was fantastic, and Leica R glass as well. Fantastic. They collaborated with Minolta to make some of those glass, but beautiful glass for SLR stuff. Rangefinder, that's a completely different world, and we can debate and talk about that for hours. Let me see here. New Fujifilm 18 out next year. Any info? Well, if I had info, I couldn't tell you because I'd be under NDA. But I don't, to be honest. I don't keep up too much with the roadmaps because I just think I want to focus on what we have now. But if they make new 18, even if they remake the F2, I would be happy and make it into a Fujicron, right? But if they can make it into a Fuji Lux, so make it into an 18F 1.4, Take would be happy because my field of view of choice is 18 millimeter. You know, the Ricoh GR series, the Minolta TC1, the Nikon 28 Ti. And you know, with my Leica, my premium glass for my Leica is the 28 mil Summicron. I just love that as my daily lens. So I would love for Fujifilm to update the 18F2 to a Fujicron, but if they can make it into a 1.4 and not have it too insanely huge, it'll definitely be smaller than the 16 1.4, which I'm willing to live with, and I will be one of the first people to pre-order that lens. Hello from Italy. How's it going from Italy? What do I think about Tokina lenses for Fujifilm? Hey, the more third-party manufacturers that make lenses for Fujifilm, the better. I mean, right now I have the Per Gear 35-1.6. For those of you who haven't tried the Per Gear lenses, they're manual focus. There's no contacts in here, so there's no communication between the body and lens. So you got to input in the camera what lens you're using so that in the XF data you can remember what you shot with. But these are super sharp lenses. They're just beautiful. And you know, these Chinese manufacturers, they're smart. They're grabbing old Voigtlander and old Contacts, or you know, they're using old lens designs of the past, and they're just remaking it. Because I'm looking at how sharp the glass is and how beautiful the bokeh is on these lenses, thinking, how can they sell this lens for $70 US, and how come it's so sharp and there's no chromatic aberration? Like, how are these lenses so good? It's because they're just copying older classic vintage glass designs. And so that's what makes these, like, this could even be an old, I didn't study the lens construction, but it could even be old Leica glass, right? So that's why these glasses are so sharp. And having Tokina, having Sigma, having access to more glass for the Fujifilm ecosystem, I think even Fujifilm is kind of coming around to that, because they were before going like, we don't want to work with anyone. And now they've kind of hinted, or maybe it's official, that Sigma will be making glass for, I don't think it's specifically for Fujifilm. They're going to get their art lenses their fine art glass and just put a Fuji mount on there. The more glass options that we have, the more chance that people will migrate from Sony and Canon and Nikon and Micro Four Thirds into the Fujifilm ecosystem so they can access some of these other lenses without having to use adapters. So if Tokina jumps on board, if Tamron, Sigma, whoever jumps on board, definitely the better. Let me see here. So Steve, you're saying that there's an 18 f1.4 on the roadmap. That's great. So that's exactly what I would want. And I would pick an 18-1.4 over 16-1.4 because to me, 16 is no longer wide enough. Let me just, I have 16 on this 16 to 80. Now it's at f4, of course, but it's a focal length I'm kind of used to. But if I want to walk around lens, but I want a bright walk around lens, I think 18-1.4, Taka is happy over the 16-1.4. But I do also want Fujifilm to update the 14mm f2.8. Now between the 14 and the 16, I always pick the 14 because that to me is a true ultra wide because that's the 21mm equivalent. A 16 is like a 24 in full frame. And yes, it's wide, but it's not ultra wide. So 14-2.8 is great. I don't like the clutch focus on there anymore. I find it a bit too gimmicky now. Make a 14 f2 or a 14-1.4, or even if they make a 14-1.2, I think that'd be awesome. But the 16-1.4 is great. I mean, it's one of their sharpest lenses optically. It's a beautiful glass that I probably would never shoot with because that focal length is a little bit odd for me. I would rather have a 14 and go ultra wide or go 18, which to me is a wide angle, but to me an 18 is a standard lens. Like I said, that's what I use on my Leica M7 is the 28 Summicron. When I walk around town, I don't want a 35. I want a 28. And so I'm looking forward to an 18-1.4. Thank you so much for letting me know about that roadmap. Like I said, I don't really look too much into the future because Fujifilm will eventually send those lenses for me to review anyway. So instead of me salivating and wishing for something that isn't here yet, I'll just wait until it's here and then I'll review it and let you guys know what I think. Because that 50 f1, I didn't think I would like that lens that much. I think I'm kind of saving up for that lens. I think it's awesome. Eric, so the Pentax glass fits well with the X Pro 2. Well, the Pentax glass is a full frame, right? So it'll definitely fit, and it's a DSLR, so there is the flange back distance that has to be made up. So this is these are my Minolta to Fujifilm, and you can see this thickness is for the flange back distance. I'm gonna lose connection soon because I'm not plugged in. So I'm gonna have to cut this short. I have 68 of you guys on. I haven't even got to all the questions yet, but I do appreciate you guys joining. So if you guys like this, let me know down below. I will save this in YouTube, in the YouTubes, and put it under live, and then you'll see when the last time I did live. I think it was about 3 years ago or so. But if you guys like this, I'll make this a weekly thing where I'll stream something live, and I'll improve my lighting, and I'll improve the way I'm doing this. And we will talk to you guys soon, all right? So thanks again for joining. Don't forget to like, don't forget to comment if you have any questions, and I will answer them on my next live video. So we'll talk to you soon, guys, and happy shooting. Peace.